today's conference. Thank you to everyone joining. Please just bear with me just a moment or two longer, let's say a couple of minutes, and then we will begin. I think we'll start shortly. Just give everyone a few more moments before we start. Introduce our speakers. Okay, while everyone else is still joining, I can see that we are live, and also I can see people messaging in chat, which is great. It's lovely to see people engaging and letting us know exactly where you're joining us from. So I can see Michael, good afternoon from the Czech Republic, hello. Sundar, hello from Canada. And somebody else in Gabriel from Czech Republic as well. Lovely to have you with us. From Azerbaijan, from Bologna as well, lovely. While we just wait one more moment, it's just lovely to have everyone introduce themselves and where you're from, what you do. Hello from the Ukraine. And from, oh, Mauritius, lovely. Okay, I think we'll probably start in just a moment. And see a few others are joining, so just one sec. Okay, right, lovely. Hello from New York, hello from Brazil, hello from Senegal. It's lovely to see everyone joining us. Hi from the UK, James. Right, so we've got all of our speakers and panelists with us, lovely. Others that will be joining us later. Great, okay, I mean, I think people are still joining, but we will start the conference and, you know, hopefully everybody will be able to catch up just in time. Lovely, so ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us for our online event today. My name is Roxy Iqbal. I am the Strategic Advisor at Deep Knowledge Group, and I will be your moderator for today's presentation and discussion. So today's event, which we've called Building a Sustainable Future Through Food Tech, the panel discussion, will be reviewing the food tech landscape and its practical applications of innovations for sustainable sourcing, production, and distribution of food. Today's interactive event brings together renowned founders, innovators, thought leaders, startups, investors, companies, and all those that are currently disrupting the entire world of food tech and the entire sector for social good. We are happy to have accomplished speakers and panelists joining us today who will be presenting their best sustainable technology. And also we will have a live panel and Q&A discussion towards the end of this conference. The idea is together, let's all delve into the latest trends in building a sustainable future through food technology. Just to make you aware, this event is currently being recorded and it will be shared later for reference use and for those who weren't able to attend. So give us, often I think it's a day or two that we send that out. Remember as well that we have a chat facility below, and I would encourage you to leave your comments and your feedback, and also you can read up as we go along and as we sort of introduce each speaker, we will share with you their social channels, their contact information, any relevant materials that we think that you might be interested in engaging in as well. What I would ask as well is that we have a Q&A box in the corner. And for those of you that are interested in some of the content that you've experienced and you have further questions, please feel free to send your questions into that box. What I would politely ask is please don't send any questions that you want answering in the chat facility. They'll just get swallowed up and lost. Please ensure that you send them in the Q&A box. If it's a specific question for a specific speaker that you want addressing, then please do mention that in your question who it's for as well. Again, please don't be shy. The chat function at the bottom is for us all to sort of network, and it's our peer-to-peer opportunity and breakout area. I can already see that we have so many people joining us from all corners of the world, from Brazil, New York, here in the UK, Mexico City. So yes, thank you very much for joining us. Introduce who you are, where you're joining us from, what you do, what your interests are, if you work in the industry, or if it's just something that perhaps you're researching it. Wonderful. Hello from Spain. Hi, Pedro. So with that, I think let's get started. Once again, this session is being recorded for those that would like to use it afterwards for reference use. Okay, here we go. So I am delighted to welcome our first speaker, Anastasia Litt. Anastasia is a director and a director of investor relations for the Europe and Middle East and North Africa region at Deep Knowledge Group. She's also a skilled fintech specialist with a solid background in international business development with not one, but 2 master's degrees in finance and banking and international trade, both of which she was able to gain internationally. Anastasia is an expert in her craft when it comes to strategic partnerships, investment management, corporate finances, and analytics as well. And at Deep Knowledge Group, she holds a very complex role in which she ensures the smooth functioning of various different departments and projects. And these will touch upon various different sectors, such as longevity, deep tech, AI, deep pharma, fintech, invest tech, and also food technology as well. So Anastasia, welcome, and the floor is yours. Looking forward to hearing your presentation.
Roxy, thank you so much for this presentation, and welcome everyone. So very pleased to see you and to present our report. Just let me share my screen. So does everyone see my screen right now? Always fine, Roxy?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay, so thank you for your attention, and I'm pleased to present today the state of FoodTech in 2022, as well as the investment trends. So first of all, I present Deep Knowledge Group, which is a consortium that is devoted to the longevity industry. We've been the first organization that formed their description of the longevity, under which we understand the complex of different industries and subsectors that allow you to be healthy, increase your lifespan, and of course be wealthy. Of course, we have different financial activities, as well as we have a bunch of analytical subsidiaries. One of them has prepared the report on the food tech industry, and I'm glad to share with you today our insights, as well as discuss the investment trends. So the food tech is unlocking the large and underpenetrated food market. Our report shows, first of all, at this slide, you can see the mind map that is like forming the food tech industry, as well as you can find the interactive mind map on our web. Here you can see that our reports numbers more than 500 companies, more than 800 investors, as well as we do map the accelerators, hubs, and R&Ds that is based on their innovation and potential and business activity across the globe. Our report offers a wealth of valuable information and analysis on the major opportunities, challenges, and trends that are currently shaping the food tech sector. Drawing on extensive research across a variety of primary and secondary sources, the comprehensive report provides the unique insights into topics like food safety, product innovation, automation, intelligent supply chains, digital health promotion, sustainability initiatives, and much more. So first of all, I would say that the global food tech market is projected to reach such as peak values more than $342 billion by 2027, according to recent analysis. The high growth of the industry can be attributed by the increasing penetration of the internet and smartphones in the development economies. The food processing industries are increasingly adopting more advanced technologies due to strict regulations being implemented by different governments and social organizations regarding the climate and environment, and resulting in minimal food waste and reduced energy consumption, and some of the factors driving growth of the food tech market. We can say that ag tech is the largest category. So here you can see that it numbers more than 25% of the whole industry, across all analyzed companies. The subsectors of the ag tech includes such companies as agri-body technologies, augment colors aiming to the bridge the gap between agriculture and technologies. The second and the third biggest types are food science and food service, with 19% and 30.5%. As well as you can see that delivery and retail subsectors are growing, and probably next time we can see bigger numbers in this breakdown. So here you can see the regional distribution of the food tech companies. We could say that about 70% of the food tech companies are located in the EMEA region, while the biggest regions are still like numbers. The second place is North America, and we can say that Latin America and the Asia Pacific region are growing as well. The top 5 countries by the number of food tech companies are the United States, the United Kingdom, and France. But we can see still that the increasing number of the companies in Israel and Germany. One of the latest trends in the emerge of food tech, which refers to the use of technology to improve safety, quality, and efficiency of the food production. As for April 2022, there was $61 billion totally invested in the food tech companies globally. While the overall size of the food industry indicates there is plenty of room for growth, the rapid pace of change means that food tech companies will need to continue to innovate in order to stay ahead of the curve. Most investors interested in food tech companies are based in the European MENA region, as well as we can see that there are still big number in the North America for the investors, which counts around the 40% of the investors who are located in North America. Also, we can see that one of the most invested subsector is delivery, while ag tech and food science also leading in these numbers. The growth across the board in terms of investment secured numbers of deals agreed and startups reaching unicorn status lends itself to optimism. And as well, we can see that the seed startups and early stage ventures are still one of the most attractive for the investors nowadays. So I would like also to split the light for the cutting edge technologies in the food industry and the trends. As the global food robotics market is expected to reach by $3.2 billion by 2027. It is led by the shortage of the manpower in the global industry that makes us to use more robots and enhance of the annual growth rate of the robotics globally. Robotic research has expanded in the domestic industry, promoted to the technology standard and the development for the small and medium manufacturers. The robot transformation is a service sector that has significantly increased business productivity and customer experience. Here you can see the major startups in the robotics that serve the food tech industry. The second industry that has increased a lot is AI and machine learning that has automated several complex issues that the industry faced primarily. AI, along with data science, has improved the quality of restaurants, cafes, and food delivery systems. and food outlets by increasing production and utilization of different fitting algorithms to boost the sales. And in the food and beverage markets are expected to reach around 30 billion by 2026. And here you can see also the major companies that serve for AI and ML for the food tech industry. The third industry, which is rather interesting, is the global blockchain in agriculture and food supply chain market, which is projected to reach by 948 million by 2025. Amidst the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, the global food supply chain's numerous inefficiencies were realized globally. This has to lead to the probable opening of opportunities in the mid and long-term technology markets. The blockchain platform offers a repeatable framework for end-to-end digital trade execution in the agriculture sector. Blockchain can help with inventory tracking and shipping processes and some other challenges that are served by this modern technology. So also there are different 4 trends that shaping the food tech growth in 2022. So the outbreak of COVID-19 has led to a sharp increase in demand for food delivery and takeout services, as well as greater focus on the food safety, and that burst like the whole industry a lot. And one of the most prominent trends is the move towards sustainable and personalized food choices. This includes the development of the alternative protein sources, as well as initiatives to reduce food waste and improve food safety. Moreover, the pandemic has also spurred the growth of the nutritious market as consumers seek out ways to boost their immune system. The alternative proteins market is expected to grow at a compound annual growth around 12% for CAGR in 2022-29, and is going to reach more than $36 billion by 2029. The growth of this market is driven by the increasing number of venture investments in alternative protein companies, innovations in food technology, the high nutrition value of edible insects, and the environmental sustainability benefits of alternative protein. The global food traceability market has also reached 4.5 billion in 2020 and is going to reach around $10 billion by 2028. The growth of this revenue is expected to be driven by the rising demand for food traceability systems to identify necessary documentation and tracking for each stage of the food processing. An increase in demand or important tools in the agri-food sectors presents a very useful tool for analyzing, monitoring, and managing the flow of the products, as well as a surge in demand for food products containing health-giving additives and nutraceuticals during the pandemic has prompted the nutraceutical industry to leverage AI to introduce personalized diets and nutrition, different needs, supplementation, dosage compilation for every individual. Technological advancements in the nutraceutical industry will enable more personalized approach towards nutrition in over the next 3 years, with accurate sensors possible via collaboration with expertise in medtech industry. And according to the previous year, the food waste index published by the United Nations Environment Programme showed that more than 900 million tons of food sold in 2019 were wasted, which is like this number that makes me even wondering how it could happen. That amounts to 17% of all food available at the consumer level, enough to line up in the circle of the planet 7 times over. The food tech startups tend to fall into 6 categories and 2 segments: limiting food waste produced in the first place and doing something with potential food waste that it does not end up in landfills. So these are the major trends in the food tech industry. We can see there is a big room for growth. There are major trends that allow us to see the interest of for the investors.
Sorry,
for everyone, as well as like we should point over more about the food safety, food waste, as well as help the industry to leverage by using different technologies. The Deep Knowledge Analytics that provided this comprehensive report, as well as serves with a FoodTech dashboard, which allows to see the dynamic 360 views of the industry ecosystem. Here you can see the market research for B2B matching tool. Please use this QR code to reach the dashboard, as well as please reach out to us in case you would be interested to learn more. At our dashboard, you can obtain competitor analysis, product and market research, find partners or service providers that specialize in your niche, as well as it's very useful for the investors who can locate startups and take closer look at them, analyze different industries and companies, download our previous reports, track the market research, monitor and all the updates in the real time, and do much more. So also I would like to thank our Deep Knowledge Analytics for providing all these insights, and also we are always glad to discuss with the potential partners, potential collaboration, as well as we're always glad to provide all the insights on the comprehensive studies for the food tech and different other industries that could influence the market. So thank you for your attention, and I'm always glad to provide more insights on the market.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anastasia, for your incredible presentation. I can see that we've had several comments and questions as well. So one thing I would ask is if you are able to please do stay for the panel discussion, which will be taking place later on. To our audience and guests who are joining us today, welcome to those who have joined us in the last few minutes. Just so you are aware, the session is being recorded. You will hopefully get a copy of that recording at some point, and you will be able to use that for your reference. I would also ask for you to please send any questions you have or feedback, any feedback or comments that you have in chat. And if you have a direct question, relating to anything that's come from a speaker, for example, there was a few earlier, please send that in the Q&A box. What I would ask is, Anastasia, I think there was one comment that was directed at your presentation. So if you want to answer that directly within the chat, please feel free to do so. Lovely. Okay, so moving on, we are delighted to welcome our next keynote speaker, Matan Luri. Are you with us, Matan?
Yes.
I can hear you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, and I can see you. So Matan is a senior advisor at Brink, a leading accelerator that is investing in food tech. Brink's food program aims to solve inefficiencies in the food system to enhance sustainability through investments in plant-based meat substitutes, cellular agriculture, and fermentation-based proteins. At Brink, Matan serves as a member of the investment committee and an advisor to portfolio companies, where he works closely with food tech CEOs on strategy and capital formation. Matan is also a venture partner at Hanako Ventures, a VC fund that invests in early stage startups and growth stage technology companies in Israel and also in the US. Hanako itself has invested in leading agri-food tech companies such as Redefine Meat, a leading 3D meat printing company, Seedtree, a software company that optimizes fruit tree yields, and InFarm, a breakthrough vertical farming company. That's quite an accomplished background you have there, a lot of experience. So naturally, I'm very much interested to hear what you've got to say. Thank you very much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. We will move at a fairly rapid clip. And do we have time at the end of the session for Q&A, or do we just go through and present?
What we can do is, if you are able to join our panel later on, that would be great. Okay. If there are any direct questions that somebody would, I would say to our audience, if you have a question about Matan's presentation, please send it in the Q&A box and ensure that you say it's for Matan, and then Matan, feel free to, you can directly respond to them, or we will, if we have time, we will try to bring it up in the Q&A session as well.
Okay, then let me just go through a few of the basic slides. and we'll handle Q&A later. So a little bit from a high level of what's driving the growth in this sector. It is primarily uplift of the world's population as the world becomes wealthier. We're looking at a situation where 2/3 of the world will be middle class in the next 10 years. That in turn translates into increased consumption in meat. We're looking at meat consumption, already one of the world's largest sectors with $1.4 trillion a year, doubling over the next 20 years. So how are we going to meet this meat demand? Well, we can't do it in the traditional ways we have. We can't do it through simple animal agriculture because it's neither economical nor sustainable. And what we are seeing is that food tech is stepping into that gap. And first and foremost, we see plant-based protein and plant-based meat analogs taking up a very significant portion of the protein stack and also rapidly growing. Other cellular agriculture and precision fermentation derived deep tech meat or lab grown or synthetic meat are also underway of development. And so that's also going to take up a significant portion of the protein stack. We have numerous drivers that are in support of the space, including changing consumer demands, increasing government support from a national security standpoint, and new and emerging technologies. But this is the slide that really gets us most excited. So this is showing just how rapid the drop in costs is for cellular agriculture. And we're seeing cellular agriculture costs drop even more rapidly than transistors dropped through Moore's law, which enabled the computer revolution, and even more quickly than the cost of genomic sequencing, which really drove a lot of the biotech innovations that we're seeing today. So the cost of cellular agriculture is dropping even more rapidly. In addition, we're seeing that animal agriculture is growing slightly more expensive year on year. So what we are seeing is that we are in a world where synthetic proteins are going to hit parity with animal-grown proteins within the next 5 to 10 years. From an investment standpoint, what does this mean? Well, if you had been an early investor in Impossible Foods or Beyond Meat, you would have seen triple-digit multiples on your investment. Impossible Foods is almost a 600-fold return in valuation between the Series A and the more recent Series F. So this is a little bit about how we're approaching the world. We are investing in companies across plant-based cellular agriculture and precision fermentation. And we're investing at the early stage. So what are the kind of companies that one can see within this space? We have invested in companies that are making lab-grown fish, lab-grown heritage meats, and also using precision fermentation to synthesize proteins. So things like making real human breast milk proteins in a laboratory for use in infant formula, or creating hybridized versions between plant-based and animal-based protein, such as inserting animal DNA into shiitake mushrooms and using that as a scaffolding for growing a meat-like product or growing a meatier version of plant-based products. We've invested in niche plant-based foods, such as companies that are making halal meats or making peanut protein low-cost meats for the Chinese market. And we've also invested very broadly across ingredients in companies that are using insect protein or algae. We've achieved very strong returns on those investments. However, I would say that this really points more to a bubble that's forming within this space. So we have been fairly immune, and if anything, have been beneficiaries of the bubble that is being formed inside of food tech. However, that's because we're investing very, very early. We're typically the first money in. What I believe is that this space is become dramatically overvalued. And what we're starting to see now is a correction. So we've seen declines in the market caps of the handful of listed food tech companies that are out there, such as Beyond Meat, which has lost a very significant portion of its market cap, or Else Baby Nutrition, which is also a publicly listed company focused on plant-based infant formula, which also had lost a very significant portion of its market cap. We're seeing this sort of correction happening across the entire space, with the privately held companies also increasingly being pushed to revalue in their subsequent rounds. So we think this is actually healthy for the sector. The vast overexuberance and high valuations that we've seen aren't good for anybody. We want investors to come in and make money in a rational way, with the future rounds being reasonable. And unfortunately, what we've seen is that subsequent rounds in the most recent market have been just crazy. Companies are raising at exorbitant valuations. So what we're seeing now in terms of a correction is very, very healthy. I think with that, I will table it and yield the time back. We would be happy to take questions later during the panel. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Matan. That was really insightful. I think it's interesting to see that you are very sort of community focused, especially given obviously you've got various different niches in the market. So it's really good to see how plant-based has actually expanded to those communities as well. And I think for sure there will be some questions about that, and I'd like to touch upon that later on if you are able to stay for the panel discussion.
Sure. Looking forward to the panel. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Lovely. Okay, so let's move on to our next speaker. I would like to welcome Leonid Dovbenko. Are you with us, Leonid?
Yeah. Hi, nice to meet you.
Oh, hi. I see you've got Leo down on your Zoom. So is it best I call you Leo and not Leonid?
It's just to be short, yeah.
No worries. So thank you so much for joining us today, Leo. I found your background really interesting because you are actually from restaurant manager, actually working in hospitality, and starting from the ground up, to having sort of worked way up really. So from restaurant manager to franchise owner, and now CEO and co-founder of Yellow Market DMCC, which is really impressive. So Leo is an accomplished food industry leader. Not too long ago, he founded the biggest restaurant community in the UAE, which unites 7,000 restaurants. That same year, he successfully made a seven-figure deal with Carrefour Middle East. And I believe you also won the tender for a very well-known pizza franchise, Papa John's, in the UAE, and also for Papa John's in Qatar. And yes, from what I can tell, you bring a very unique perspective from having worked in the food industry for, 2 decades now. So thank you very much for joining us. And again, very much interested to seeing what you've got to share.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Yeah, my name is Leo. Right now, my current project is Yellow Market. We do super fast delivery in Dubai. It's my actually business number 17. So all my life I am in food tech. I built many different things. Yeah, but today we will speak about tomatoes and super fast delivery. I will share the screen, yeah, and start. Is it on?
It's loading. I can see it's loading. So let's try another.
Okay, interesting.
Yep. Yep. Now, if you want to go to slideshow there, still loading. If not, we can view it. If you
want. Yeah. Okay. Let's do it. Yes. Yeah. So, I will just tell a bit my story about Yellow Market and about 500,000 chocolate and 10K tomatoes. Yeah. Actually, so once again, about Yellow Market, we started 1 year back in Dubai with very simple idea to deliver something very fast. Sorry, something very strange happens on my side. Do you hear me very well?
No, it's yeah, I can see an error. So if you want to maybe go back and export it, that might be a way, if that helps. So maybe try.
1 moment. Yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. So while I'll give you a few moments to just have that sorted. So maybe export it as a PDF, and then we can view it that way. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody else that has joined us. I can see that the numbers have kind of jumped up rapidly in the last half an hour, in the last 5 minutes rather. And for those of you who weren't aware, this session is being recorded. In fact, let me put my video on so you can see me as I'm speaking. Hello. The session is being recorded. It will be shared with everybody for reference as well. Please have a look below in the chat box. You will see, I think it's Tanya, I believe, who is sharing, or Katerina, who is kindly sharing details of all our speakers. So you'll be able to see more about Leo, Matan, Anastasia, the speakers that we have and the panelists in terms of their LinkedIn, and also their company links and any interesting materials that we think would be relevant to you. And again, please send your questions. If you've got something that has intrigued you, you can send it through to the Q&A box in the corner. And if it's specifically for someone that you've heard from today, then please put their name at the start. Otherwise, we will have a Q&A and a panel session later on towards the end of this session. So let's see, how are you getting on, Leo? Were you able to export?
Just 1 minute, I don't. So it's like some Google issue. So 1 moment, I'm downloading.
Yeah, no, otherwise, if you want to send it through to myself or to Katrina, who I think she emailed you earlier today, then she can do the screen share for you and we can sort of drive it for you, not a problem. So again, to everyone, thank you so much for joining. I can also see that our audience is engaging with us. It's lovely to see where you all are from. Please don't be shy. Let me know who you are, what you do, which sort of corner of the world you're joining us from. Hi, Gurpreet Kaur. Hello from Canada. Nice to meet you. So I'm from the UK in the north. I'm from Yorkshire. I don't know if you know, if everyone knows Yorkshire. I think most people just assume anything further from London is just off the map. But it's lovely to have all of you.
Yeah, I sent to Katarina. Yeah, there you see it.
Wonderful. So, Katerina, if you're there, if you wouldn't mind sort of sharing the screen for Leo, and then Leo, as and when you want to move to the next slide or the next sort of screen, just say next slide, please. Again, to everyone, thank you for joining us. Let us know where you're from, what you do, and any questions that you have, please share them at the bottom here in the chat box. So let's see how we're getting on with, give me 1 second, otherwise I'll see if I can share it.
Yeah, so it's on, yeah, I'm starting.
Yeah. I don't think she's received, oh, perfect, is it working?
Yeah, okay.
Wonderful, there we are.
Yeah, sorry for delay. Yeah, let's start. So once again, we started 1 year back in Dubai with idea to deliver anything people need every day in 15 minutes. Actually, at that moment of time, it was quite fresh idea. We were the one and first company in Dubai who delivered it really in less than 10 minutes. Actually, how we came up with this idea, it's all of that came from sustainability. So, in nowadays in GCC countries, 15 minutes city idea is very popular. So it seems that we live in megapolis, but actually, in fact, most of our life happens very hyper locally. So everything is around. And this, 15 minute city idea is on hyper right now. So for example, this is the district where I live in. It's shoreline, beginning of the Palm. Actually, so I need to leave Palm only to go to office. All the rest life actually happens here, as we have anything we need here, to malls, restaurants, beaches, cafes, parks, and so on and so far. And the most popular project in this part of the world of about 15-minute city, it is NEOM. Maybe you have heard about it. It is in KSA. So overall idea is that the city as itself is fully pedestrian, and all infrastructure needed for life of people is somewhere under the water or under the ground. And I thought that, and so this is how, for example, this city will be built. So one very long roadway and hyper-local districts around it. Yeah, and actually, this, I am actually a 15-minute citizen, so I don't have car, but I have many type of electric transport, and my freezer is always empty, because I don't need to buy anything in bulk, because, any food is delivered, so nothing to worry about. Yeah, and, this 15 minutes city idea I thought that in future, to support this idea, people will need new style of third place. So as you know, once upon a time, Starbucks invented third place. So it's like not home, not office, but somewhere in the middle. And so I believe dark store in the future will be such kind of third place. And this infrastructural element will help, in such kind of cities to live faster. And dark store can consist of many things which people need every day. So dark store for carry necessary groceries, dark kitchen to cook, sushi, pizza, whatever, to be an outpost for Amazon and any other e-commerce websites, to carry pharmacy, flowers, and laundry collection, pickup points, and so on and so forth. So that was actually an idea. And we decided to start with groceries because quick commerce is booming right now all over the world. Largest, transformation of classic retail business happening right now. So people ordering more and more in online, and they less visiting hypermarkets during weekends, to buy groceries in bulk. So we started 1 year back. Right now we have something like 1,000 orders per day. We open it in 7 stores, covering 30% of Dubai, having more than 200 people in team. And actually, it was quite amazing. Customers love us, so we're growing super fast and so on. Yeah, so it's like just small introduction. So as we are talking about sustainability today, I just prepared 7 samples, how we implemented it, and then I will come up about our fundraising process, which is actually quite unique. So first of all, from day one, we decided to use mostly electrical type of transport. And actually, it's not was only, sustainability idea. It was actually very, very profitable idea because rider expenses much less when you use electrical bicycle or electrical scooter or something like that. So when you live and deliver hyper locally within super fast delivery, you have better driver utilization, so less cost per order. And so overall customers are less expensive. So initially it was just an idea, let's use scooters. After that, we understood that using scooters is actually much more profitable rather than usual petrol bikes. And, electronic transport is simply beautiful. I am a great fan of it. I have tested personally maybe 50 different models. We have right now scooters, cycles, bicycles, motorcycles, but electrical and so on. Yeah. So second point, which we started from, it is paper bags. Even before it became a trend, we started using only paper packaging for croissants, for food. We started delivering water, in reusable plastic bottles, which people can return to us. Yeah, and so right now we are booming with this coconut. It's like really fresh coconut with coconut milk, and so we deliver it in natural packaging, actually in coconut itself. Yeah, and all the customers like it very much. Yeah, so coming back to fundraising process, we have several very great investors. Vamde Capital, which is VC of Fadi, who is founder of RNX. Dubai Angel Investors, Prashant Gulati, personally, Dohatech Angels, and so on and so forth. So most interesting point was about chocolate. So once upon a time, we were pitching Dubai Angel Investors. We had maybe 30 people in the room, and I was trying to explain what does super fast delivery mean, because actually investors, told me that, nobody needs super fast delivery. People can wait. It's not an issue. And then one guy just ordered chocolate. It was Lind. Yeah, and after 9 minutes, driver came to the place where we pitched it, and everybody was amazed how actually fast it is. And right after that, investors committed to us for $170K. So we have, this bill. It's still on the wall of our first store. So yeah, we named it for $500,000 chocolate. Yeah, so it is with us. So and another case was about tomatoes. Actually, I am great fan of tomatoes. I have, I can't actually achieve targets and my goals if I don't have good tomatoes. And the problem in Dubai is that you don't have good tomatoes in Dubai. So I visited actually all farms. I personally tried, all imported tomatoes. All of them are bullshit. And I even, invested in a vertical farm who is working to grow tomatoes in vertical farm. I became early investor because I strongly believe, that tomatoes must be tasty and they must, grow and being sold, somewhere the same place. But finally, we have found the very good tomatoes in Tashkent, in Uzbekistan, and we started importing them every 2 days by plane. And actually, so this left side, it's our tomatoes right now. It's actually best tomatoes in the town. And I just posted on Instagram that, guys, see, we have best tomatoes in the town. I'm sure like they will change your life. So just order and they will be delivered in less than 15 minutes. And so one investor decided to try, he placed an order and messaged me, okay, Leo, I placed an order. If you will deliver in less than 15 minutes, and if tomatoes will be really tasty, I will invest. So wonder happened, he got his order after 14 minutes. So tomatoes was really amazing. And he also invested in us. Yeah, so such kind of stories. And yeah, so we have many actually such kind of stories as we were raising, 3 times already. So we raised 2.7 very early stage. Then we had a round of 5 million. Right now we're in process of raising 10 million in our pre-series A. Yeah, and actually it's all about tomatoes. Yeah, so I believe I'm out of time. Yeah, so thank you very much for your time. My name is Leo. Yeah, so feel free to message me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Sorry, I was just on Instagram trying to find your post. They really do look like good tomatoes.
Maybe it was stories. Maybe it was stories or something.
What's your Instagram? I'm curious.
Yeah, Leo Dovbenko Enk, yeah.
All right, okay, I'll find you, and I'm looking for those tomatoes for sure. They do look good from the presentation. Thank you so much, Leo, for your presentation. That was really interesting.
Yeah, if you want to try really good tomatoes, so you know where to find them.
Can you send them to Yorkshire? we have our own. I'm trying to grow some in the garden, but if you want to send them here, but I'm not sure about the carbon footprint in order to be able to do that. So, but maybe when I'm next abroad, for sure, I will hunt them down. So wonderful. Thank you so much. Are you able to stay for the panel, which will start hopefully in about 15-20 minutes from now?
I will try to do my best. Yeah, thank you.
Lovely. Okay, I can already see that there are a couple of questions that came in from Michael Rad. So you're more than welcome to, if you would prefer to answer them direct, you can type those out.
I will type right now. Yeah.
Sure. Brilliant. Okay, thank you so much, Leo, and I'll speak to you soon during the panel. Wonderful. Okay, so now we have our final speaker before we start the panel and introduce some additional panelists as well. Jamie, are you with us?
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. And so I have Jamie, is it BTech or Bitesh?
Bitesh, actually.
BTech, sorry. We used to have something in the UK called the BTech qualification. So I was like, it can't be BTech. So Jamie Bitesh, lovely to have you join us. Jamie is an investment associate at Good Seed Ventures. Jamie Bitesh is the investment associate there, working and living out of Tel Aviv in Israel. His background includes working in sustainability and mobility startups. His current focus involves supporting early-age startups in their growth strategy. Being deeply exposed to the food tech industry has encouraged Jamie's passion to accelerate our global transition to a more sustainable food system. Now, that I find interesting because I feel many companies should definitely follow suit. So I'm quite interested and I'm curious to see what you've got to say. So yes, over to you.
Awesome. Should I share my screen?
Yes, if you are able to, then that'd be great.
Thank you. Can everyone see?
Yeah, wonderful.
Great. So I hope everyone's having fun at the conference. And today I'm going to talk about how organizations measure their impact and how you can do it too. Sorry, 1 second. Yeah. So a little bit about myself. My name is Jaime Betech. I grew up in Mexico City. And I'm very passionate about sustainability. As you said before, I worked already in mobility startups and consulting in the field of sustainability. I did an MBA at Tel Aviv University, which got me exposed to its amazing food tech landscape. I got to meet a lot of entrepreneurs, founders, and companies, and I got to understand where the food tech industry is heading in the future. I joined Good Seed a year and a half ago as an investment associate. We are a venture capital that exclusively invests in alternative proteins and food tech. And we currently have 15 investments. Our 3 main verticals are fermentation-based, plant-based, and cultivated-based. And we try to support the companies along the entire way with everything from technical knowledge to also business knowledge. And we try to significantly reduce CO2 emissions to our partners. So we all talk about impact, but do we actually know what that means? The sustainable impact on food tech goes way back to the entire supply chain. Most startups that I've seen measure three main factors when they talk about sustainability, but there's many other steps along the supply chain, like for example, waste, or for example, transportation, we're gonna touch later on, that many startups need to measure, and it's an untapped field that has a lot of potential for startups to understand the impact they're building and the impact they're creating. So most startups measure the water saved, the land saved, and the animals saved by doing their products. But what about the methane production from cows, which is one of the highest CO2 footprints in the world? The production of animal feed, which uses a lot of land and water. The food processing part, where the agricultural products are turned into finalized consumer goods. The transportation cost and emissions, which is taking the products from farm to fork, and usually farms are very away from the cities, so it uses a lot of emissions and wastes a lot of gas. Once a product arrives to the store, there's refrigeration involved, which uses energy. And last but not least, and one of the most important, packaging, which creates a lot of waste and uses a lot of plastic. So these 6 factors are also super important for startups to be measured and to understand where they're standing in their sustainable impact. So measuring impact and communicating it properly helps you to set realistic KPIs, which is basically not only following financial returns. As a startup, you also need to have sustainable returns as your metric inside of your company. It helps you also create a purpose-driven environment where the employees and the coworkers in your company not only come for the next paycheck, they come for a bigger purpose, and they try to change the planet and know what they're in it for. And the last one is gain trust from impact investors. They really love it. Every time at Goodseed that we see companies that talk about sustainability, for us is a check mark. Like, we really appreciate when startups take into account the sustainable impact they're creating. So this is an example of a plant-based company that saved 5,362,560 kilograms of CO2. Do any of you understand what I'm trying to say? Do we understand what this means? How can we measure impact and communicate it correctly? Benchmarking is key. Entrepreneurs in early stage startups can't afford to measure impact because it drains time when they need to be working on improving their product with different ingredients, temperatures, equipment, and creating their final prototype. They need to be focused on fundraising, networking, going to conferences, meeting people, and improving their personal brand. And they need to build a team and create a company culture that will make it successful. It also drains a lot of money because they need to rent a working space. They need to invest in very expensive equipment and advanced. And they need to pay for top talent in order to have a very good team and a solid team in the company. So by benchmarking, you can get a close estimate of your organization's impact without investing a lot of resources. Benchmarking 101, a crash course by me. An early stage solution to understanding your organization's impact. And I say this because so many companies have very low production capabilities at the beginning, and there is no point in trying to understand the impact of 1,000 kilos of meat. When you scale, it's more important to understand it. So in the long term, you should evaluate all the different ingredients in your product, the impact along the entire supply chain, including the waste, and peer review your results. So in this 5-step small course that I'm going to give, I'm going to touch on the early stage solution to understanding your organization's impact. Step number 1, utilize trustworthy and comprehensive data. This is a graph from our world in data that shows the greenhouse gas emissions across the supply chain. Here you can see all the different emissions across every step of the supply chain of animal products and also plant products. This can be a reliable source of information that you can take from the web and utilize it to measure your impact. So you can use this data to calculate your CO2 emissions per kilogram or ton of animal products. Step 2, choose a product. So you list the exact type of animal product which you will be replacing. So in this example, we will use a dairy company. Then you list the main plant-based ingredient of your product, which can be peas. So you're doing pea milk. And then you make an estimate of the percentage of peas used in your product, which is 5% content. So for every liter that you're producing, let's consider that 5% of it is pea content. Step 3, you calculate the emissions reduction. So here's where we compare the cow milk versus the pea milk emission reduction. So cow milk produces 3 kilograms of CO2 kilogram of product, as I just stated in the previous graph. And pea milk produces 1 kilogram of CO2 per kilogram of product. If you make a simple subtraction, you can understand that pea milk has a 2 kilograms of CO2 reduction per kilogram of product, which is 66% less than cow milk. Then you calculate the total emission saved. Let's say that your company produces 10,000 tons per year of pea content, and emissions saved per kilogram are 2 kilograms of CO2, as we just said in the previous slide. So by making a simple multiplication here, you can understand that your company reduces 20,000 tons of CO2 saved per year. So you have your number. Congratulations. Once you have your number, you need to communicate your impact properly. I believe that this is one of the most important steps when it comes to being in an early stage startup, communicating all of your information in the proper way. So, oh, your pea milk company saves 20,000 tons of CO2 per year. That's so cool. Said no one. Make it sexy. No one understands what you're trying to say when you use those big numbers. A 100 passenger flight from New York to Amsterdam generates 1,000 tons of CO2. Saving 20,000 tons of CO2 is the equivalent to emissions of 20 passenger flights from New York to Amsterdam. Sounds better, right? Be creative when communicating your impact. Always try to be as clear and transparent as possible. Never use very big numbers, and always try to communicate and be empathic and know the audience you're speaking to. It's not the same communicating internally with your coworkers than communicating with investors. You can always use soccer fields to compare your impact to, cars, burgers, houses. The options are limitless. So Good Seed Ventures partners are projected to each reduce 100 tons of CO2 per year by 2030. We have partnered with 15 startups to date, which means that this will be the equivalent to 1,500 flights from New York to Amsterdam yearly. This is how we measure our impact and how we communicate with our partners or LPs, the companies we invest in, and all around our branding messaging in LinkedIn and all the different social media. So that's it. You just learned the importance of impact in your organization and how the entire supply chain matters, all of the waste and every step, all the 6 steps that I just mentioned, how to measure it without burning time and resources by using benchmarking and information that's out there, but always taking into mind that you need to find credible information, and how to communicate it in an effective way by being clear, transparent, and never speaking about big numbers, and trying to be as empathic as possible with the people you work with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. That was really inspiring and very, very interesting. And I loved your use of real world examples and how to sort of visualize and to actually be able to compare. For me, that I found that a useful tool. I've had some great feedback in chat as well. Are you able to stick around for the panel, which will be starting in a few minutes?
Yes, definitely. And if you want to connect with me, you can see here the Good Seed website, my email, and my LinkedIn. I would love to connect with anyone for any questions or anything further.
Absolutely. I would encourage our audience to just get on LinkedIn, follow Jamie, have a look at his website for sure. And again, we will have a copy of this recording, which includes this amazing presentation to be shared to everybody later for reference use. Let's have a quick break. A short coffee, tea break, if that's okay. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes. What I would say is, in the meantime, don't go anywhere. Well, on Zoom, stay where you are. But just, have a few minutes, get refreshed. We're going to have a really good panel session, really interesting questions that are coming through. I've got some questions and notes that I want to address to some of the speakers. We also will be hearing from 3 additional panelists, Briga Ravi, Pascal Kriesch, and Gregory Liu, who will be joining us for the panel discussion. They have a wealth of experience as well. So please, at the bottom, you've got the chat box, mingle, chat, network, send, share your LinkedIn and your socials and who you are, and any questions you have, feel free to pop that in Q&A. So remember, chat is just, feedback and commentary. If you've got questions, if you have questions, send them to the Q&A box. Right, lovely. Okay, so we'll be back in, let's say, 5 minutes, maybe less. Let's see. Thank you. Okay, we'll start in just a second. One second while I look at some of the comments that we've had come through. It's great to have so many of you share what you do and sort of your background as well. And I hope it's been interesting so far, the presentations that you've heard from. So let's have a look. We've got a few questions already being sent in. Lovely. Okay, I can see more of us have actually joined as well, which is fantastic. Just so you are aware, the conference, it's being recorded and it will be shared for everyone's reference, so you can sort of review back for your own reference, and also, you know, to sort of get more information on the presentations that you've seen. So let's move on to our panel session, if everybody is with me. So what I would do is, first of all, invite, we have 3 new panelists. If I can ask you to turn your cameras on as well. I am going to introduce our new panelists right now. In fact, what I'll do, I'll read out the bio that I have for you. Because obviously, as you are joining us now, it'd be nice to have, if you feel like you've got something to add on to the end of the bio that relates, or maybe I've missed something, then do take a minute to sort of delve into your background a little bit further. So first of all, a warm welcome to our first panelist, who is Brigu Ravi. Have I pronounced that right? Lovely, right. Nice to meet you. Brigu is the head of international business at TraceX Technologies. Brigu Ravi is, you have over 19 years of experience. You're passionate about opening global markets for organizations that you've worked with. You are very well traveled, I can see, and you have successfully done business in all continents. Tick, tick, tick. That's amazing that you've, you know, achieved that. And you've also worked for a myriad of industries, ranging from manufacturing, trading, IT services, customer engagement solutions, food retail, and currently agritech. I can see that you enjoy building, coaching, and mentoring multi-geographical sales teams as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Have I missed anything? Is there anything that you would like to add?
You got everything over there. Currently, I'm with TraceX, which is this food and agri supply chain traceability platform. And probably we'll get to that during the discussion as we go ahead.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I also have with us Pascal Kriesch. Did I get that right? Oh, you're on mute. Are you with us? I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Did I get that right?
You pronounced it great. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So welcome, Pascal. Pascal Kriesch is founder and CEO of Smoothie, a platform for fresh and healthy nutrition, starting with all natural smoothie and natural-based ingredients. His mission is to empower healthy habits. Smoothie's proprietary technology is self-cleaning and self-sanitizing, thus removing the need for any human operator. Pascal holds an MBA from Harvard Business School, which is impressive, where he graduated not long ago, a few years ago, as a Baker Scholar, which I would like you to explain afterwards, because I have not come across that. After his double degree in mechanical engineering in Germany and France, he worked in B2B sales in Mexico before joining BCG as a strategy consultant. When starting with Smoothie in 2018, he initially validated his key assumptions by manually serving smoothies in more than 10 offices in Boston in paid beta pilots, I suppose. Smoothie launched commercially in 2021, and it's now operating in 3 regions, mainly in convenience stores and corporate offices. Pascal, have I missed anything? Is there anything that you want to add?
Sounds good. I mean, I can give a little bit more explanation what Smoothie exactly is, because it sounds like a platform might be hard to think.
I'd love that. And also what, yeah.
Sure. No, it's basically, it's a blender that cleans itself, that sits on a counter, and it removes all the human operations. So no one to take out a tray like you're used to on a coffee machine. Just it's fully self-serve, self-cleaning. And the idea is just to bring fresh and healthy options into all those food deserts. But today you always have the convenient choice that is the unhealthy choice. So yeah, that's what we have been building over the last years. So we have patents on the technology. I'm a mechanical engineer from background, so definitely a passion for building something. And I know in the chat also some people were raising the food waste topic. I think we have a huge opportunity in our food supply chain. So we use frozen fruits, one for the nutritional aspect, but also upstream in the fruit supply chain. There's just so much food that is wasted that can't go to a supermarket, and it's at peak ripeness, so it's a perfect ingredient for a smoothie that we can leverage. So happy to talk more about that.
That's amazing. I've never come across actually a product like that, and it sounds really interesting, especially with it being self-sustaining. And I'm sure we can delve into that a little bit deeper later on as well. What's a baker degree? I'm curious. As a baker scholar, I'm curious.
It's like the top 5% of the class.
That's amazing. So, well, very privileged to have you with us then. Thank you so much. And we also have Gregory Liu. Hi, I can see you.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? So Gregory is the founder and CEO of Natufia. He began his journey with a degree in business and law from ECCIP and University of Paris. The fifth, is that right? The University of Paris, the fifth.
Paris fifth, yes, exactly. We have many universities in Paris, so it was Paris.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah.
Gregory honed his management and business skills at a property investment company with international offices across the US and Europe, with over 25 years of experience in the real estate sector, from small to large scale residential and commercial development projects. After acquiring an olive plantation in Sicily, he discovered a great passion for the food industry and decided to channel his efforts into a new outlet by challenging the food production, distribution, and retail sector. This led to the creation of Natufia, an industry disruptor, by manufacturing the small gardens fully and semi-automated for indoor growing in order to give back to the communities the accessibility and control of producing their own food. I can tell I've not done any justice to what you do, Gregory, so I'm going to let you explain a little bit more the heart of Natufia, because that's interesting.
Yeah. So the heart of Natufia really, it's you see a lot of large farm and big scale hydroponics. Hydroponics, for those who don't know what it is, it's you grow plants by enriching water, and the plant, instead of growing in the ground, they take the nutrient from the water. So what Natufia did, we developed product of small size that people can put in their home, in their restaurant, in school, in hotel. And the idea really behind that is instead of going through the whole supply chain, is that people are growing home, or restaurants are growing in the restaurant, or hotel are growing in the hotel, and this is really the thing that we're doing. Okay, we started the company about 5 years ago, and we very working on the automation of this type of system. The machine does everything for you: water the plant, put the light, cleaning the tank, and everything like that. And we have a lot of patent technology. I think we have almost 20 patents today on that.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much for having you. I think we've got a fantastic panel here with our newly joining panelists and also the speakers. You are extremely accomplished, and it's just very interesting to have all the different opinions here today. So lovely. If I can ask our panelists, if you are able to turn on your cameras. If you can't, if it's not convenient, don't worry, as long as I can hear you. If I can ask you to make sure that you're with us right now to join us for this panel. What I would like to do is, I do have some questions that are directly written for, especially for Gregory and Pascal and Brugu as well. But I think I've noticed in the comments and in chat, there's been quite a bit of chatter about food waste. And I know some of you have touched upon that, but I'd love to have a quick, maybe just snapshot in terms of what you are doing for reduction in food waste, because it's if I'm honest, I do personally feel as though there's a vicious cycle going on here. In the UK, we are trying to do what we can, but I feel that there's a lot of sort of, it's like tennis. It gets thrown to the supermarket or the food producer, and then it gets thrown back to us, the consumer. So, the onus is on me, or is it on the supermarket, or is it on any of the other producers as well? And I feel like it's become such a political thing that there isn't any direct responsibility for it, but there is a very apparent awareness of the amount of food waste that we have out there, and is there enough of an impact if every company themselves is just doing what they can to combat it, or should we be working in cohesion? For example, should, you know, Gregory, as an example, team up with one of the other companies that we've got here with your technology, as an example? So I'd be interested to sort of see what you all think, and it's directly addressing the question that's come from Michael. Michael, I know that you're confused and frustrated by that, so let's see what people have got to say about food waste. So who would like to go first?
I'm happy to jump in that, because this is a big part of Natufia, because like I said, you know, we make the people growing food. For that, you completely, you know, reduce the waste. But I think that the problem, and we have to go a little bit deeper into that. I think people today, you know, we enter, you know, a civilization of consumption. So we consume, and we don't care. You know, waste is something that's become completely normal. And I think how we can, you know, solve that. I mean, we can try any way we want to solve it, and there's a lot of initiative doing, you know, including us. But I think we need to re-educate people. And with Natufia, that's really what we're trying, because I think people don't have respect to food because they don't understand, you know, the time it takes to make, the energy it takes. So the whole things is just, you know, a piece of green is a lettuce, you put it in a plastic, you put it in your, you know, in your fridge, and then you eat it when it's there. And if you go to the restaurant and it's wasted, then it's wasted, and that's it. But if people can start to appreciate, to you know, to see the salad growing, to take care of it, I think you can, you know, remake a little bit this connection with nature and this understanding what, you know, nature is. And if you do that, I think people will start to understand and respect, you know, a little bit more nature, and avoid, you know, all the waste, you know, that is down around. I mean, this is my point, and that is many ways to solve it in many ways. But that's the way we try to solve it: educate people through growing food themselves.
Yeah, perhaps like following up on it, I can definitely see it, like with our consumers, they always ask, like, where does the fruit come from? There's definitely a curiosity, but I truly believe we have to educate them. The other thing I hear a lot is, like, why can't you just grow all your fruit locally? So I'm curious, Gregory, to know about your technology, what kind of fruits you could grow. Like in our case, we get all our fruit from Mexico. But just, I mean, to get mango, I'm based in Boston. You don't get any nice and ripe mangoes here on the Northeast. But we found great suppliers in Mexico. So what we do to do our part to reduce food waste is we grow directly, we pack our cups directly to source. So they're flash frozen at peak ripeness. And I think that's one of the beauty of the frozen supply chain. You maintain the nutritional value. We have zero food waste to date because our expiration date in theory is 2 years, but it's only fruits and vegetables. So they don't really expire if you don't break the frozen supply chain. So I think that's a big advantage. You can obviously argue about the frozen aspect and the energy used for that. But I think in the end, it's a trade-off. And what really stuck me was when I went to Mexico to see our farms and the packing process, like just how much food is wasted, because most of it goes to supermarkets, and they usually, like, the bananas, they're still green. If there's like a small bruise on a banana, it doesn't go to the supermarket. If a banana, it's only like 4 instead of 5 to 8 bananas that don't go to the supermarket, just discarded. For us, we only need chunks of fruits, so we can actually package those pre-packaged frozen cups with any kind of chunks of fruits and vegetables. So I truly believe we have a big opportunity there, but happy to hear thoughts.
Well, I'll take a stab at that as well. So food wastage today is directly proportional to food security and sustainability. And one of the key issues that has always happened is, while there are several players, and Roxy, I'm going to take something that you mentioned earlier. Do we look at it individually as a singular organization which needs to take responsibility, or is it the complete consortium? So if you take any value chain, any food value chain, there are several stakeholders in that network. So if you could probably look at the dairy value chain, for example, you got the rearer, the cattle rearer, and then there's somebody who brings the cattle to size, and then from there on it goes into the chillers, the boilers, finally into the packaging, and then to the retail outlet. And during this whole process, there's a lot of wastage involved. Now, what really needs to be done is to get all the stakeholders as well as the parties and the actors to start creating some credibility to their claims. Every stakeholder does mention that they are looking at trying to bring in food security. But the only way to do that is the whole value chain comes in together, all the actors come in together and create some kind of a consortium. And that's something that we've been doing at TraceX, where through our blockchain, we're creating a network, getting everybody to be part of a governing council. There are acceptable and mutually agreed decisions in terms of how to measure and monitor food wastage at every point. And finally, analysis comes out. A technology which can actually bring in all these aspects together can probably find certain solutions. We can't solve everything, but if you can solve even 30% of it, that's a huge number.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And would anybody, Leo, or unfortunately Jamie had to leave, he had something urgent come up. Leo, Matan, would you like to add upon that? One thing that I will sort of mention is, look, I think for me personally, I think the issue is, it's on one side, whose responsibility is it? Whose fault is it? And I don't want to say that in such a negative way. And I think this is the issue, is it's just being pawned off one to the other. I myself try my absolute best as an individual, but I'm very, very aware of the amount of waste, and that there's not enough that's out there in terms of education that is mainstream. And what I mean by mainstream is, we all remember when we had a period of greenwashing. And it was either cool to be green or to be sustainable, or or you were very negative about that. And it was well received. It wasn't well received. There was all these sort of trends, fair trade and everything. And I think what I personally feel is that it should be more of, this is every day. This is let's normalize everyday things that you can do as a consumer, as a user, as somebody who cooks. If we have any mothers on this group, you'll completely relate. I have a toddler, and the amount of food waste is ridiculous. I'm there picking up after him, trying to eat, but not understanding or knowing enough about what can be done with these products. And again, that is, I'm the end user, that's on me. But I do feel as though sometimes the companies that I buy food from should have a little bit of responsibility in allowing for some education for those little moments and those pockets. So yes, Briga, what you've said about creating this sort of quorum, bringing everyone together, I agree with you. It just seems like it's so complicated and not that easy. It's not universal. Every country has its own sort of rules, regulations, not being able to give food from your restaurant to somebody because of the legal issues that might arise from food poisoning, and not being able to sort of, I know a lot of supermarkets do have imperfect options now, which is great. Are they more fad driven? So I do wonder what you think in terms of breaking down that complexity. It's easy for us to sort of skim it, and on a granular level, you are all doing brilliantly, Gregory, what you've mentioned as well, and Pascal. These are the steps that companies should be taking. But what about bridging that gap?
Supply chains are extremely complex. There's no way to shy away from that. But there's only one way to solve big problems: to start in a small way. And the only way to do that is, if you look at each value chain, or every food and agri value chain over there, if you can get in at least say 4 or 5 members within that chain to start talking to each other, to bring in more transparency, to bring in more trust, to exchange ideas, and then drive that training as well as the information right down and downstream to the customer in terms of how they're doing it. And that's some one of the things that we do is have a QR code attached to the final product, which not only shares the complete journey of the food, but also gives in tips and tricks to be followed at the most basic level. What can you do to probably contribute? So it's, rather than looking at fault finding, you use the right word, which is responsibility. If you can take responsibility on a micro level, on our own nano levels, you probably will be able to move the needle just enough to go to the next clock.
Okay, so another thing I want to ask is, we might have with us joining us today, in fact I can see from previous chats, startups and those companies that are sort of starting to disrupt the industry with products and services that some of you are successfully running and have launched today. What advice can you give them, especially when it comes to this? Because what we don't want is nobody wants to reinvent the wheel, right? And is there something that, obviously if it's proprietary, then I wouldn't expect you to share that. Is there any advice that you can give to these individuals, these companies, about how to start and how to tackle these issues? Be that advice in terms of how to structure sort of their supply chain or how to deal with their local governments. Any advice that you can share that has supported your own journey here?
That's a hard question. Yeah, that's a hard
because
question because it's
yeah,
it's a lot of it's a lot of work and how to give advice on this level. I mean, any big problem you need to to watch it in their own in their own country where they do it. They have to see what they can do. But reinvent the wheel. Yeah, that's maybe what we need to do and what people need to start to work on, because it's a lot of things to change out there, and like you say, we can start on the nano level, on the on the top level, but I think on the nano level, if we start to tackle at this point, is something can work. So yeah, in terms of advice, yes, it's hard because every subject is so wide and different. So unless you have something a little bit more precise, then maybe we can give something, or if you narrow a little bit the question, maybe.
It is quite, I think that's the issue. It's such a broad question because the only way to narrow it down is to take specific, you've got to get geographical. You've got to look at, for example, in a specific country, what their practices are as well. There's just doesn't seem to be one blanket universal sort of way to proceed, right? But I mean, I think, what Smoothie's doing is a really good example of how to sort of cut back on that as well. But if there's any wisdom that perhaps you feel could support somebody who wants to go into this industry and who wants to produce and actually wants to make sure that they are sustainable, what's the thing that they should be thinking about?
I think first, when you decide to do something like that on this level, and that's what we decide. You have to first you have to analyze, to find a problem where it's a real problem. Okay, and there's many problems, so that is not a lack of possibilities there. And I think when you see this problem, then you have to really watch what are the possibility where you can avoid waste. If we go back to the waste, I think the example. To do the smoothies, all the bananas are this size, and if it's not the right size, they just get wasted. Then if you frozen, then you just cut them by pieces and put in your smoothies. So that's a perfect solution to use a product that normally is not used. In our case, we focus really on greens, and greens, it's something that have a very low shelf life. And that's why we want to focus on that, because a salad, after a few days, it is already empty of vitamins and everything like that. So I think you need to analyze a problem where you see it's something to be done, and then you see how you can solve it.
Pretty good. Would you like to add?
Yeah. So the most sustainable companies in terms of business continuity are those that have started their business by looking at the most local problems, right? And those are very personal problems. Those are the ones that they really understand on a personal level. For a startup entrepreneur, they really have been affected by it, and then start to look at what are the solutions. They are also looking at what are the, what is the support that has been given. And that could be funding support, that could be government support, that could be compliance and legislation support. All these things do come together because creating a startup is backed by many factors. So from that aspect, I'll give you an example of an organization that I came across during a summit that happened in San Francisco last month. So the Saudi Arabian government decided that they would stop importing, or rather, levy very heavy import duties on certain leafy greens, and I remember one of them to be spinach. There's also tomatoes and capsicum, etc. Bell pepper rather. So that was an opportunity for a local entrepreneur to start vertical farming and involving hydroponics and aquaponics to start, giving in value-added produce directly delivered to customers. So the government was ready to support. There was funding available. The legislation was definitely with them, and because of the import duties as well as the import restrictions, the organization started to gain good market share and has now moved across the GCC countries, right from Saudi Arabia to Dubai, to the UAE, as well as Kuwait. So these are certain opportunities that really can give a boost to any startup, which is looking to, or an entrepreneur rather, to start business. I hope that answered your question to a certain extent.
I think it did, absolutely. Is there anything that you would like to add, Pascal?
I mean, I think one advice I can give based on my experience on the food tech side, I think there's a lot of like robotics and technology that's just developed for the sake of technology. But honestly, I think sometimes we have to rethink the process first. And like in my example, I mean, we focus on the production of smoothies, right? The easiest would be to take a traditional smoothie bar, put one of those assembly robots in, and just trade your smoothie as it was a human. And I think that's a fad. It's fancy. It's a nice experience, but at the same time, it's huge capex. It's huge space required. So what we did, we kind of rethought the process, and now we put it down into 3 steps. It's on 2 square feet. You can put it on any counter. So I think it's important to really not just develop technology, but always develop technology with a need. And there are a lot of simple ways to prove that early on.
Absolutely.
Before you're developing anything.
I think one phrase that we hear a lot, and I'm getting bored of, is automation, because I feel like it's kind of something that is put out there to, let's automate this, and it's just assumed to be a quick fix for some severe problems that might be happening in business or in a company. But I like the way that what you're doing is not automation. It's self-sustaining. It's more about that productive sort of cycle that it feeds into, as opposed to we've got well, let's be honest, when you think of automation, it's really money saving, essentially. It's a way to save money. But then there are some very intelligent ways to introduce automation into your tech. And I think what you're doing as an example, like precision, is key, and that would eradicate, for example, waste in having a machine know exactly what it's doing and how to operate it, for sure. But I do get nervous when I come across companies that are saying we're fully automated this or that, because I think, well, are you just jumping on the bandwagon? It's something else. And I think, again, bringing in blockchain, I think that's really interesting that you've said that. And my very first experience when I was introduced to blockchain, it was described to me exactly as you've kind of explained it. And it's essentially, and I think we had a question that related to that earlier on, which looks at transparency, and blockchain helps that significantly. But for me, I feel as though, it's such an unfamiliar area, and I'm waiting, and I have been waiting, and I'm not seeing or experiencing, as a customer or a consumer, blockchain in being able to take a very well-known established product and understand its journey, its supply chain, and to be able to trust exactly what they're saying when they say we are minimal, food waste on this, and we use 10% from here, and 10% of our proceeds go there, and all our organic, our cotton is organically sourced from this country. I think we are being promised it, but where is it?
So look, technology has a lot of strengths out there. It is just about how every organization tries to see how it can be leveraged. And technology can be in many, many ways. Automation can never be 100%. And food and agri industry is a very traditional industry. It does have a lot of manual work, and there's a lot of input that is coming, data input that is coming in manually. The challenge there is the data that is coming in, the results can only be as good as the data that's coming in. So how do we verify and validate the data? How do we ensure that there's credibility to the claims? That the only way to do that is to bring in transparency at every transaction point. Whenever data passes through, whenever there's a request for transparency, if we can measure, map, and track that, that's what will lead to transparency. Of course, these are very early days because blockchain is still a technology that is evolving, but there's a lot of potential for it. And I think the very reason why we chose that as our base framework when we were creating the platform was because this had a lot of potential. The most important thing was if it talks about network. If the network effect is what can monetize, can make agriculture a real business for everybody involved, and that's involving the farmer as well in smallholder countries. There are about 500 million smallholder farmers across the world. How do we ensure that they look at agriculture as a business? Is that if they can see the market, if they can access the market, as well as get what is due to them. That is only possible when information is available and is transparent at every point of time. So the advent of smartphones, internet gives them the capability to view every information at every transaction point, and then also ensures that the next generation stays in farming, because that's now business.
That's really interesting, actually. Thank you so much for explaining that. And apologies if I put you on the spot there. But I think I was curious because it's something that I've read about and been spoken to about many times. And it's just nice to see that it's still there. We just need to have it integrated a lot more as well. So not to sort of speak on food waste for too long, but I'd like to sort of address a question that we've had come through. Let's go to, now it's a bit of a long one, so you might want to take snippets from some of the questions that you think you would be able to relate to or answer. From Gabriel Morgan, he said, I'd love to hear from the panel on their thoughts on innovation trends that take us from ideas that only delay sustainability problems to actually solving them, to actually solve them. I love all the positive energy towards sustainability, but we need to keep our eye on the holistic sustainability picture before getting too excited, right? What trends or things can we all get really excited about that actually solves our sustainability challenges? For example, the shift to accurate measurements or insets versus offsets, as an example. Who would like to maybe...
I have a small point on that. I think on this point, I think we have to think for sustainability we have to rethink local, because I think this is very, very important as much as we can. Of course, if you want to eat mango in Antarctica, you will have a problem. But I think we need to really rethink local, and that's how we will be able to solve a lot of sustainability problems. Because the chain today with the cost of transport, with the pollution, with packaging, and everything, traceability as well that we just said, even if blockchain can start to come step by step, is not there yet, and it will take time. I think we need to go, as much local as we can to understand exactly where it's come from, like that you know where your food is coming from, and as well to avoid all the waste and all the miles between. So I think this is one of the steps that can be done on the measure that is can be done in many products. Actually, we were just speaking about Saudi Arabia, that's push for local farming, and now we have different technology that enable that many years ago didn't. So I think technology enable us to become more local, and I don't go on a political level and think that it might
no,
be a lot more stability as well on many points.
I'm going to be a little bit controversial here, and I'm actually going to throw that point back to you, Pascal, because I know that you get a lot of your fruit from New Mexico. Is that right? Mexico, sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that you are aware of that and what that means, and you must have your ways to reduce your impact, right, in order to do that.
I mean, honestly, we are always, I think it's a trade-off in the end. We want the highest quality fruit, the ripest fruit. We don't add any sugar to our smoothies. So it really comes down to the taste of the fruit itself. I haven't seen any locally grown tasty mango around Boston, pineapple either, right? So you bring them from Hawaii, but it's still like overseas. And I think it's a trade-off. I mean, you could say as a consumer, you don't want to consume delicious fruit anymore if you can get it and you only get it locally. Or I think in the meantime, we have to bridge it, but we're looking at ways to kind of reduce our footprint across like many aspects. Our packaging, we introduced 100% biodegradable bamboo straws, for instance. That's something the United States is not there yet. They still use plastic straws. So I know I'm from Germany, so I know in Europe we're much more forward.
We ban them here as well. Yeah.
But in the US, there are like even people ask me, we had one actually, everyone loves the bamboo straws, but then like from time to time we get some people and say, oh, it tastes like bamboo. Why can't we have plastic straws? And I say, we can't. We will never offer plastic straws. But I think there's a certain ignorance, and I think that goes back to also the point that Gregory made at the beginning. I think there's education that needs to happen around our consumers, and I think consumers also need to embrace the change, because in the end, I think companies will always produce what their consumers want, and as long as the consumers are also looking just for cheap products, there is no. I mean, sometimes taking those measures is costly, and the bamboo straw is more expensive than a plastic straw. So I think we cannot all be mission driven as company leaders and try to do the right things, but as long as the consumers are just cost driven, that's also making it very difficult.
No, I completely agree with you. I think, the straw example is something that is in recent years, a lot of countries are actually starting to look into that. For me, I was massive advocate for it purely because of what it actually does to marine life and that negative impact it had. But as a mum, again, it's frustrating because the other day I bought a smoothie for my little boy and they had paper straws, and he's 2 years old and he's like eating through it, not understanding why why he can't. So I've actually bought these reusable straws, which is something that I wanted to touch upon as well, because that for me, I can take it around everywhere. I don't have to worry that he's going to chew through a paper straw, because I have been guilty to have gone back and said, I'm really sorry, but can I have 3 more straws, please? And that's just, I've cancelled out the whole point of having a paper straw in the first place. But I'm curious what you think about this whole reusable culture that we have. Is it a fad? I mean, it's massively marketed by Starbucks. You can have money off your drink. You can have, take your bags for life into the supermarket. You can't even, for fruit and veg now, you don't get paper, not even plastic, but paper bags. You've got to take your own. But is that helping, or is this just going to come and go?
Well, reusability and recycling are definitely, measures that are being taken right now a lot more seriously than it was earlier. And you can actually see it across countries as such. Like, for example, in India, the very same case where plastic has been banned in many states across the country. There's also the idea to go back to where we came from, where we use a lot of plant material for packaging. So I actually incidentally came across an organization which is creating food packaging materials with grain chaff. So all of that is being wasted by the grain companies or by sugarcane companies is being remanufactured, reutilized into packaging materials rather. You've got your plates, your spoons, your bowls, etc. Everything is being reutilized over there. So I agree with what Gregory said. To become sustainable, you need to start looking at it locally and from a local sourcing perspective as well, because that would really relate to what's happening on the ground level rather than trying to equate it with countries elsewhere, because what is local over there is going to be imported and expensive over here.
Gregory, was there something that you wanted to add?
Yeah, no, I would like to. I think this is a very nice thing that is happening. Reusable, and it's a trend that I hope will stay, and I think it will stay because it's it's positive for everyone. For the companies, they spend less money on this type of things. Like you say, Starbucks, if they have less pepper, is more profit and they're happy. Customers, happy as well because they feel they do something. And like the straws or personal straws or any kind of object that they start to do, like my water bottle here in metal. So everybody start to have that, and it's become an object that you have, and I think that is positive and is should be even pushed more and more on this way, and I don't see any negative, really impact on that.
Absolutely. So unpopular opinion, or maybe it's a popular opinion if you guys want to let me know, governments need to take more responsibility here and enforce rules. And for example, I keep using my own examples here. We have green bins for recycling, and you will get fined if you don't use them, or if you are not recycling properly, and if you mix them, and they offer you brown bins as well for your garden waste as well. Now, I wonder whether on a local level, we have, our councils, our regions, our cities, our states, and they take responsibility. But on a national level, perhaps, should our government be a lot more involved and more responsible, and actually have a bit of a tough love philosophy? So, for example, I don't hear about how to compost and how to get rid of my from TikTok, as an example, and I don't hear about how to dispose of my coffee pods from Nespresso. I'm actually being told this and educated, because all of it comes down to education. What you are all doing individually is absolutely fantastic. It's very disruptive in a positive way, the impact you are making, but you can't take it all the way. You've done your part. So who instills that? Because you can't expect the individual and the consumer to self-educate and to sort of I suppose, involve themselves into understanding how they can join your journey. You've got a journey, you've created this roadmap, an ideal roadmap. So perhaps, is it an unpopular opinion, or should this be the way forward, is that we need to start looking at policymakers enforcing this, legislation behind this? What do you think?
I think definitely the government. I mean, I will go even more than that. I think right now we don't see real price of things. We take a plastic bag costs nothing, but the impact it has after it's produced is not the production price, is what's happened, after or during the life. And that is not taking into account, anywhere. And I think that should be even much more taxed, So let's say right now we tax everything, with, most of the country has VAT. The VAT is the same for everything, but some products that have a huge impact in the future should be much more taxed than other, because it's a real cost, after it's produced. Right now we calculate everything on production, distribution, but we don't, calculate anything on the afterlife of this product, and I feel that should definitely be accounted. Yes, so I'm a big advocate of this part.
I agree with Barry. I think it makes sense, and it creates incentives for companies who are still money driven. If you have a high tax on non-sustainable parts, you will be incentivized to go for perhaps a little bit more expensive materials, or doing some R&D to find new materials.
Wonderful. Brigo, would you like to add?
Well, the way I see it is, the government is a representation of the citizens, of the people. And it's a good tag team to have. One is, the government on one side has to drive those initiatives, help in awareness and learning, and ensure that, it is long-term rather than short-term. On the other side, it's for citizens to really understand what they're getting out of it. What is their incentive to go down that path? Because, on an individual level, you're always looking for the shortcuts. But, when you start seeing that, it's happening on a council level, village level, council level, province level, and the country, you start seeing those changes. And a very good example of that would be, like, let's say Australia, 1952, during the Munich Olympics, they didn't do very well in sports. They came back with one solitary medal. And then what the government actually did was it went down to every council and started to create sports infrastructure. And that's the reason why Australia is where it is today. Same thing happened with China. Now, coming down to the to the food aspect of it, if we are able to digitize every single acre of land, and we are able to understand what each acre is, in terms of value, in terms of the wastage that's coming out of it, and then drive that to the citizen level, then each citizen has a responsibility. But it's all down to driving those long-term initiatives through education and awareness.
Absolutely. I would 100% agree with you. And I think that's a really good sort of comment. Would anybody like to sort of add any concluding or final comments before we wrap up? I apologize, we have gone over quite a bit, but it's just really interesting. Any final comments?
One thought, yeah, I think we all have a responsibility just to be role models, right? In the way we purchase, we dispose of our waste, and I think it starts small, but if we do the right thing, people around us will start doing the right thing, and they will be role models to others.
Absolutely. I think what you are all doing is phenomenal, and it's exactly what this industry needs. I apologize. I really wanted to ask some more questions specifically on the technology side, looking at the different types of innovative deep tech that we can use to actually combat some of the wider issues. But I do feel as though we have to take a step back and think about the bigger picture. So thank you so much for all your presentations, all your answers, and essentially for the work that you are doing. It's what this world needs. It's what we all need. And I think what you say about being role models, you are indeed role models in this sector. And I sincerely hope that members of our audience and those attending today have taken some inspiration from what you're doing. And even if it's just in the smallest possible way, let's just hope that it can contribute towards them working in this industry to build a more sustainable future. So with that, I think we will wrap up. Apologies once again for overrunning. I just want to say thank you, everyone, to our audience, our guests, our panelists, our speakers, for joining today's conference and the discussions. Again, we have recorded this entire conference. It will be shared with you. Just give us a little bit of time. It might be a few days, but we will send that out to you as soon as we can. I say that because sometimes you message me on LinkedIn saying, Roxy, when's the recording coming out? So you will get it when it's ready, I promise. Please do check our website, which is www.dka.global, or just Google Deep Knowledge Analytics. You can see the logo in the top corner there. You will see details on our work, the report that Anastasia was going into. You can actually have access to that as well, and other similar reports as well. You can find out about upcoming projects and events. We've got more conferences. We've got another conference next week, which is kind of AI and deep pharma, which will be interesting. Just want to say a big thank you to Katrina Mrlic, who's been our technical host with the logistics in the background. She's helped put it together, and the lovely Tanya Bell for resharing several links and content for everyone to review. Again, to our panelists, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been my absolute pleasure to have been your host, and to everyone, have a great day wherever you are.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure and great learning. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for all of you.